Hey there folks, Red-haired Maniac back here with you after a few days absence. I had a business trip up north to take care of. Took me away from the house for about 3 days or so. Started on Wednesday, so I was late picking up the week's comic stash, so I'm going to talk about comics for the week of May 25th, I believe it is. I've got 8 things to talk about today. I would go over them, but I think I'll just hit them one at a time. Last week I had prepared notes and thoughts. This week, fuck that. I'm just going to talk. First thing I've got here is Hellcat number 6. See if I can arrange this just right. There you go. I just dropped this from the subscription list after this issue. It's not a bad book. It's just not really my flavor. The art style is very cutesy. It's very kid friendly in terms of art style, although the stories aren't necessarily that way. Especially given the characters that they're introducing into it. In this particular issue, Patsy Walker, aka Hellcat, she's currently running a temp agency for superpowered people who don't necessarily want to be superheroes or supervillains. Just come around like, hey, I'm really strong. I can help you move a piano. It's actually kind of a cool thing. At least a basic idea. But this particular issue finds them trying to take a vacation. Jennifer Walters, aka She-Hulk, who's a lawyer and kind of some partner backing on this whole temp agency thing, pretty much snatches her and a couple friends and takes her to Coney Island. While at Coney Island, they run an arcade who's reminiscing about the old days. Obviously, they have an encounter. Arcade kidnaps one of their friends. They have 3 games of skill, with the remaining 3 characters being Patsy, Jennifer, and Ian, who's Patsy's current roommate, and the love interest of the person who gets kidnapped. Ian also has abilities, but for this one, Arcade says no abilities. Anyway, various skill games get introduced. Arcade does a few shenanigans, but in the end, they win the games, they thwart Arcade, and they're getting ready to go home. Part of the backstory, or the current story, is that there's been some legal issues with Patsy and her best friend Hetty, who got the rights to reprint some of the older embarrassing Patsy and Hetty comic books from Patsy's mother. Yada yada yada. She hired Jessica Jones. So Jessica Jones shows up in this, and if you've seen the Daredevil Netflix series, yeah, she's not as dark there as she is. She's not as dark here as she is there. Obviously, the tone of the book's a little bit different. And they're working on apparently trying to integrate the character. So it's a weird, cutesy version of the Hell's Kitchen Marvel heroes. So you have She-Hulk, you're gonna have Jessica Jones, you have Hellcat, who in and of her, if you look at her character background and some of the things she's done, has a pretty dark history. Being married to the son of the devil for a while, not something you really bring up in a I don't call it kid-friendly comic book. It's really the art style is kid-friendly. The writing's kind of kid-friendly-ish, but the issues aren't necessarily so. Again, I dropped it. Some people might dig it. If that's your thing, go nuts. Not gonna stop you. Second, in the realm of more kid-friendly things, remember last time when I mentioned that I really like Guardians of the Galaxy? Well, I like it enough to pick up what they call the Marvel XD version, which basically it's not a serialization of the Disney Channel cartoon, but it's the same tone, it's the same artwork. This particular issue, and this is issue number 8, they have encountered symbiotes much like Venom, who try to take over Groot. Rocket stores in the way. Yondu's involved. It's a pretty straightforward thing. Drax and Gamora get captured. They get out. And again, I don't want to go much deeper into it. I don't want to say there's no spoilers so much. It's a much more kid-friendly book in that regard. Which I find odd because I remember older Guardians of the Galaxy where Rocket was pretty much a freaking sociopath. When your tagline is "Blam murdered you" as you skip merrily across the battlefield, you're not really happy, friendly, kid-friendly sort of type character. But here they make it work. Again, Guardians Nut, I pick it up. I could drop it and not really care that much, but, you know, Guardians. Continuing on to Guardians, we have Drax, number, I believe, 7. This particular series is being co-written by CM Punk, former pro wrestler, longtime comics aficionado. Drax's adventures have seen him go through a number of different places. Here he encounters some bounty hunters who, you know, there's a bounty on his head. But he's on a mission to actually take some kids home. One of the kids happens to be royalty, you know, a princess royalty, and her father's put out a bounty on Drax's head as well because, hey, you kidnapped my daughter. Well, not really. She ran away. Drax is rescuing her. Yada yada yada. Interesting book. Definitely a different take on Drax. In a lot of ways. I want to say I really, really enjoy this book. I don't think the plots and the storylines are as strong as they could be. But that can be said for a lot of things these days. I'm still going to pick it up. Guardians, sorry, kind of, you know, you might as well just tap my arm looking for a vein like a junkie looking for a fix. Speaking of junkies looking for a fix, we have Uncanny Inhumans. Number 9. Hey, look, way to block the camera there, Dave. Pull this back, if you can see or not. Yes, that is Medusa, and that is Crystal, and that is Johnny Storm, the Human Torch. For those of you who have been following this, you kind of know, currently Johnny Storm and Medusa are a thing. For those of you who have long-time comics history, you know Johnny Storm and Crystal have been an on-again, off-again thing since the late 60s, early 70s. They haven't been together for a while. This book and the way the story is told in here kind of reminds me of last week when I talked about the Star-Lord book between Kitty Pryde and Peter Quill being captured by the Collector and being pretty much forced to talk about the relationship in this faux game show thing the Collector set up. Well, here, previous issue, Johnny and Medusa had been trapped under a building. Medusa had been keeping it stable with her hair because she's badass that way. But it was going to collapse eventually because she couldn't keep it up forever. Crystal had just shown up. She lifts everything up because she's badass that way too. And discovers Johnny and Medusa. Medusa doesn't want to tell her. Johnny just go ahead and blurts it out. Looks like it's going to be this epic row between sisters and, you know, the third wheel boyfriend of, you know, boyfriend of one, ex-boyfriend of the other. More shenanigans happens. They end up having to work together to get out of the situation. There's some bombs and some dimensional gates involved, but really it was really just what had happened during the issue was another device to another framework. Here we're going to talk about these issues, but most comic book readers are going to turn that off, so we're going to give you the obligatory random bullshit fight. I'd rather they talked about it, maybe fought each other. You know, you're superpowered. If you get superpowered tempers in there, so be it. Again, Inhumans, it's kind of like Guardians. I'm pretty much, you know, I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to pretty much read it. Even if it's bad, I'm going to enjoy it. Moving on to another Marvel team, which started out just basically as a rip-off of the Justice League. We're talking Squadron Supreme. In this case, Hyperion number 3. Solo book for him. Hyperion's off trying to find himself as a trucker. He's got a situation dealing with a runaway from a carnival. She doesn't have any abilities, but apparently the carnival people do. They're kind of weird, they're kind of freaky. The pacing on this one's a little slow, but it's... Hyperion is Superman without the Boy Scout mentality at times. He was very much and goes into depths of what his father taught him. One of the things his father taught him was it's better to kill one person to save 1,000 than not kill that person and let thousands die. He talks about not wanting to be a killer anymore. Maybe his father was wrong, but at least it kind of talks to that philosophy. He's not quite the Boy Scout that that Superman is. And they've had, the Squadron Supreme in general have had their moments. I mean, in the current issue, issue number 2 of the current run, they decapitated Neighbor. That's pretty hardcore. I wouldn't call it badass. It's like, come here, fish guy. You have no head. I'm going to carry it like a trophy. Kind of like Jason did in the old Clash of the Titans with Medusa's head. Hold it out here, going, yeesh, haha. But, again, it is an interesting take. Continuing on with that basic theme, Nighthawk number 1. This focuses on the version of Nighthawk that was hard to explain. The current version of the Squadron Supreme, they're all from different Earths. They all suffered the loss of their planet where they are the only survivor. Their various planets were pretty much killed by members of what was known as the Illuminati. Dr. Spectrum's world was shattered by Black Bolt. I forget which world Namor killed. But Nighthawk, this version of Nighthawk is a different one than what's currently on Earth that had been in Defenders. Kyle Richmond. His name is Kyle Richmond on his world, but now he's going by underneath the guys of Raymond Kane. He's kind of building up a business empire. The first issue of the solo, I was kind of surprised to see that all of the Squadron guys are getting solos right now. He's dealing with a serial killer. Which it's what's the best word I can put? It is a good subject for him. He's a street level type of hero. He's pretty much a Batman ripoff. But again, like any other member of the Squadron, more than willing to kill. He doesn't do anything here. He does beat the crap out of some people. In a superhero book, it does that. I'm going to wait and see and hold judgment on that one, see if I keep picking that one up. But again, Squadron Supreme, it's kind of like, what if Marvel wrote the Justice League? I kind of enjoy the characters at a certain level more, but if I'm going to look for a Batman character from Marvel, I'll go pick up Moon Knight, which I'm doing. Speaking of DC characters, this thing, Rebirth. I know a number of people who have read it. I know a number of people who loved it. It is, I believe, a 4-chapter story. It's actually a rather large comic book for being just $3. It's definitely kind of a loss leader for them. Trying to think exactly where the credits are, because the credits are different here. Credits are like in the back. So it's like 4 chapters and an epilogue. The story is solid. The storytelling framework that they use is Wally West Flash trying to return from the Speed Force. Something's happened. He knows what's happened. Basically, people have lost 10 years. And various things have happened. But he's trying to get in touch with anybody, to kind of let them know. So he makes contact with Batman. He makes contact with Barry Allen. And he makes contact with an old love whose name escapes me. But, and none of these people remember him, except for eventually Barry does remember him. And that's what kind of pulls him back from the Speed Force, because the memory is something. And because Barry could pull Wally back, then Barry starts remembering some of what's going on. And Batman being Batman, his curiosity's already been piqued. Let's see, love interest, where you at? What was love? Linda Park. I think I've seen her, the character mentioned in the Flash TV show. She showed up a couple times. I didn't put anything down to it because I'm not a huge DC guy, but I kind of picked it up because it looked interesting. The one thing I'm not fond of is the epilogue. Those of you who read it know, who have read it know what I'm talking about. It makes sense. What they've done makes sense. And I'm going to spoil it here in a minute. So anyone who hasn't read it, plug your ears, turn me off, whatever. The Watchmen have always existed outside of DC continuity. They are their own animal. They're, there's DC, and in the Watchmen, we're kind of like Piranha Press Vertigo stuff. They're kind of over here. DC and some of the Vertigo stuff have been merging lately. Stuff like Lucifer, Constantine, I don't want to say Swamp Thing, but stuff like that have been kind of slowly being pulled into the normal DC universe. And for those characters, it works. The epilogue for Rebirth, and eventually, from what I can tell from reading it, the person who stole the 10 years from all these people and has kind of erased everyone's memory about it is Dr. Manhattan while he's on Mars. Again, as a plot device, it works. As written story-wise, it works. I am not fond of it because, like I said, to me, Watchmen has always been kind of its own animal over on the other side of the playground, never to mix with the cool kids. Although it ended up itself, they were the edgy goth kids over there that no one messed with. And then finally, yeah, I had to pick it up. Captain America, Steve Rogers, #1. The internet has exploded about this book. Mostly with outrage. Captain America killed somebody. Captain America's a Nazi. Captain America's blah, 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 blah. I'm kind of taking a wait-and-see approach because Captain America threw someone from a plane. Threw Jack Flag. Jack does not fly. But Jack is not without his own abilities. He's not just like some normal guy chucked out of an airliner at 30,000 feet. Jack can usually shoot through some weapons. Now, hey, I'm going to shoot you. Hey, I may not necessarily be bulletproof, but I'm pretty damn bullet resistant. I'm fairly strong. There's no guarantee that he's dead. There's no body. He just... Captain America just happens, says, I'm sorry, you shouldn't have been here. Actually tried to, gave him orders not to show up there, and chucks him from the plane. Then utters Hail Hydra, who are basically now the Marvel equivalent of Nazis. Well, Steve's not alone in the plane. There's a kidnapped version of Dr. Eric Selvig. I don't know where the story's going to go. I'm interested. I understand there's a lot of outrage. Captain America would never do this. This isn't the Captain America I grew up with. It's a different time. And that doesn't excuse it. That doesn't make it okay. But the writer who's been catching hell, I believe it's Nick Spencer. Nick's pretty much been getting death threats. It's a comic book, guys. Yes, I understand for some of you who kind of poo-pooed on your childhood. I know there are kids who are crying. And I'm not saying their feelings aren't valid. But it's literally one issue. We don't have the whole picture. I'm not excusing it. I'm just willing to wait to see where it goes. When the story hits the end, and things aren't where they should be, and it's where, yes, he's definitely a Hydra agent, Yes, he's definitely a Nazi or Nazi sympathizer. Yes, he's been a bad guy all these years. Blah, 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 blah. Then I will join in the human outcry. But for now, I'm willing to wait to see where it goes. Beyond that, that's it. I don't have any special picks of the week to generally leap out at you. Again, Captain America. Do I agree with the way they took the story? No. But before everyone gets all knee-jerky and whatnot, just kind of see where it goes. Signing off for now. I see I've babbled for about 20-21 minutes. Be good enough. Check you later, kids.